The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. I'm your host, Andy MacNeil. I'm here on weekdays providing NHL projections, picks, and betting advice right here on the Canada Sports Betting YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. This show is sponsored by NorthStar Bets, which is available across Canada. They offer early odds on the next day's NHL game, so check them out via the link in the description below. I'll be using NorthStar Bets odds on this show. We're going to get into the betting record right now. Said I was going to get into that on Monday's show. So let's get into that right now. This is my year-to-date betting record. It's pretty incredible. Let's just call it what it is. It's pretty special to be hitting 60% on average odds. Mostly underdogs, mostly short favorites. 60 wins, 39 losses, up 19.3 units. Of course, the big weekend, 8-1 weekend had a lot to do with that. 17.4% return on investment. Not super happy with the closing line value or the closing line value frequency, i.e. how often I'm betting beating the closing line. But overall, I mean, you've got to love it, right? Things have been going very well here on the Puck Portfolio. I know you all have been raking in the cash as of late, and that's great. But it's not always going to be like this. So let's temper our expectations, right? We've got 3 underdog bets on Tuesday, so things could go pretty poorly, all things considered, right? So keep that in mind. If we want to look at the team by team breakdown, we can pull that up right now, and just have a look at who have been the which teams have made me the most profit, and it's the Rangers right at the top. The LA Kings, I'm 4-0 betting on the LA Kings. The Kings don't lose, so that's not surprising. The Flyers have done a good job betting on them, 4-1 year to date. The Senators, I mean, that hasn't been the case for a while. Have not been betting on the Senators as of late, but luckily early in the season picked up some wins on the Sens. But the teams that have been kind of killing me, the Nashville Predators. I bet on the Predators more than I bet on any other team. I'm 3-3, down almost a couple of units there. The Montreal Canadiens, I haven't been able to get the wins with that team for sure. And we'll talk about them a little bit later in the show. But yeah, it's been a great week, start to the week here on the Puck Portfolio. Rocking chair winner on Monday with the Florida Panthers beating the Ottawa Senators 5-0. Really just put on a clinic against the Senators. So that was a fun one. No sweat there. Let's get into the schedule breakdown for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. There's a lot to get to here. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but you can take a screenshot, factor it into your projections. Of course, check out Jeff Follett's article on CanadaSportsBetting.ca. That is a breakdown of the entire week, not just the next 3 days, but the entire week of NHL hockey, including all the rest days and whatnot. So yeah, got some teams playing back-to-backs today. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and some more teams playing back-to-backs on Wednesday and Thursday. So lots to factor in terms of the handicapping here, and I've already done that. So let's get to the projections, shall we? We're going to talk about some bets that we got down on Monday's show. The Carolina Hurricanes, they're in Philadelphia taking on the Flyers. Slight change to the projections. We know Carter Hart will start for the Flyers. Noah Cates did not travel with the team, though. He's going to be out for a while, according to head coach John Tortorella. That's a bummer for the Flyers. He's been a nice surprise for that team. So I'm still on the Flyers. I locked that bet in at plus 135 on Monday's show. It was a half unit play, still available. Probably can get a better price at this point. Not a great sign. Actually, no, that is not the case. Plus 135, really the best price in market. There might be a plus 140 out there at a couple of shops, one Vegas shop, one Canadian book. So look around for sure. But yeah, I like the Flyers for a half unit. I mean, this is a tough stretch coming up for Philly. We've talked about it on Monday's show. They're going to play the Hurricanes, the Penguins a couple of times, the Avalanche. But they've already played some tough teams, and they've fared pretty good. So the Flyers, I don't think getting enough respect here. We're 25% of the way, or we will be by the end of the day, 25% of the way through the season. And this team is a top 10 team in expected goals percentage. So time that they get a little more, bit more respect. The model thinks that they should be a plus 126 underdog. So there's value at plus 135, especially plus 140. I've locked the Flyers in half unit play at plus 135. And the Panthers, like I said, they put on a clinic last night in Ottawa. They beat the Sens 5-0, but it was a chippy game, and it probably took a lot more energy out of them than it would have otherwise, considering that they controlled the play so easily. Then again, I think sometimes those types of nights have a way of helping a team band together. So I guess we'll see what happens with the Panthers. Bobrovsky was in net for the shutout win. He didn't face a heavy workload, though. I mean, teams generate between 55 and 60 shot attempts on average in the run of a 60-minute hockey game, and the Sens only generated 37 shot attempts on Monday. So Bobrovsky did not have to work a whole lot to get the job done, and maybe he's back in the goal on Tuesday in Toronto. As I mentioned, he's had a lot of success against the Maple Leafs in his career, especially as of late. But if it's Anthony Stolarz, I still think that I like I still like the Panthers here. Of course, we've got a great number here on the Panthers. Now this one is really no longer available. So there's been a slight change to the projection with Bob starting on Monday. But the best price in market now is plus 125 on the Florida Panthers. Of course, we locked them in for a much better price on Monday's show. So the Ontario sweep, it's off to a good start. Got some plus EV locked in here on the Panthers against the Maple Leafs. So hopefully another win here to keep this train rolling. But the game that I'm most interested in at this point is the St. Louis Blues and the Minnesota Wild. This one is interesting to me for a few reasons here. The Wild, they fired head coach Dean Evison, aka Creed Bratton, on Monday. It was a long time coming, and not surprising in the least. What is surprising though is the market's resistance to betting the Blues here. Still available at plus 135, plus 142. Um, it's a little bit surprising, right? I think the Wild's problems extend far beyond coaching, uh, and far beyond goaltending for that matter. The mediocre Wild have just been just that for the last couple of seasons. But last year we had Philip Gustafson. He was unreal, and that provided a lot of cover for this team. But they've never been a Stanley Cup threat, and they've just been another team that might squeeze into the playoffs, waste our time, and it's been that way pretty much since the beginning of this franchise. So I don't understand what's going to change here with a new coach, John Hines. The Wild, they're a boring team. John Hines is a boring coach. It's the perfect match made in hockey hell. I don't know. Only two teams, the Canadians, the Sharks, have generated fewer shots per 60 minutes than the Minnesota Wild at 5-on-5, and they rank as the fourth worst team in expected goals percentage. It's if not for their shooting percentage, which ranks third highest in the NHL, I think this team would be even lower in the standings. So I really don't get it. Both of these teams are mid. There's not much of a new coach bump here, or at least there shouldn't be. It's a minus 119 projection for the Wild. The model thinks they'll win this one roughly 54.5% of the time, and I still think that's a little too high. I'm not really in agreement here. My gut says that this one is a coin flip. And it doesn't matter though. The Blues, there's a lot of value here either way. Plus 135, plus 140. We locked the Blues in at plus 138 on Monday. Happy with that play. More than happy to take the Blues here. Not scared of the new coach bump, especially with John Hines behind the bench. So not worried about that one in the least. Somebody asked me if I was going to back off the Blues. Absolutely not. They're the right side to be on here, in my opinion, whether the market agrees with me or not. One game I want to talk about, I don't have any action here, but the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Arizona Coyotes. I don't really want to talk about the game, I guess, as much as I want to talk about, some situational stuff that you see in the NHL betting market. So on Monday, earlier in the day, we learned that Nathan MacKinnon was going to be a game time decision due to an illness. And that news broke at 11:24 Mountain Time. By 11:29 Mountain Time, The Avalanche had moved from minus 141 on the money line down to minus 128. By 12:56 Mountain Time, the line had moved to minus 121. So down from minus 141 all the way to minus 121, with Tampa Bay listed as a plus 110 underdog after being listed at plus 128 earlier. So, in other words, you had less than 10 minutes to react to the news that McKinnon was going to be a game time decision and get a bet down on the Lightning if you thought that was a good idea. I didn't, though. In fact, as I pointed out to Kawhi on Twitter, I was much more interested in waiting until warmups to see if McKinnon was actually going to be in the lineup, at which point I was going to play the Avalanche. So when we learned McKinnon would be back in, the line moved from minus 124 to minus 140 in 5 minutes. So even faster than earlier in the day. So just a little note here about how things move when we see a superstar player like Nathan McKinnon with his status up in the air. I'm much more inclined to play things how I just kind of laid out there with not really rushing to play the injury news, especially if it's something like this player is sick, he might not play. We'll see how he's feeling tonight. Like that's not enough to go on for me. If it was a situation where you saw Nathan McKinnon get injured in the game before, and it didn't look good, maybe he wasn't able to get off the ice on his own with his own power, and the next game it's like, oh yeah, and McKinnon's a game time decision. We'll see how he's feeling. He might take warm ups. Then it's more a little bit, something more tangible that I might be able to go on. But a player being sick in a early in the day with a big game against a big opponent coming up, a big marquee game. That's not something I'm going to act on. I think it's kind of foolish to play that news the way that the market played it yesterday. And yeah, like I said, I would rather wait and just see if he does play. And if he does, you capitalize on that overreaction to the earlier news. So something to keep in mind there, just going forward. Obviously, I wasn't able to tweet that out at the time. Like I said, 5 minutes doesn't make much sense for me to be like, oh, I'm playing the Avalanche. Because nobody would have been able to bet that line, and then at that point, people are betting minus 140 because they're not being price sensitive, which is a big thing. So that's it for Tuesday. I know we've got a big slate, but I know there is one thing that's probably standing out there. I'll touch on it right now before I go any further. The Anaheim Ducks. They're a good bet according to the model. The San Jose Sharks were a good bet according to the model. I didn't listen to it. It seems kind of foolish of me to pick and choose the days when I'm going to listen to the model. I predominantly my bets are guided by the model, right? And sometimes I just don't quite feel like it's capturing maybe what's going on with a certain team. And that's the case with the Canucks. I find it's a little bit slow to catch up to the Canucks. And I do worry about that. So yeah, technically the Ducks are a good bet in the plus 120 range. I'm not going to make that bet. I'm sitting off for now. Maybe I end up playing it late depending on how the day goes. I should have rolled over some of my winnings from the Panthers last night onto the San Jose Sharks. But Thomas Hurdle was out. I was busy, didn't really get a chance to update the numbers. Decided not to bet on the Sharks. Of course, they beat the Washington Capitals 2-1. And just a note about the San Jose Sharks: they are now 5-5-1 since getting blown out 10-2 by the Pittsburgh Penguins. If you bet $100 on the San Jose Sharks in each of the last 11 games, you'd be up $518 versus closing lines, which is pretty incredible. You'd be down about 200. You'd be down $268 if you were betting on their opponents to win those last 11 games. So yeah, it's not necessarily. I'm not saying that the Sharks are a good bet. They can be, but it's a super square thing to do to just blindly bet against this team. Like you better have a great reason to be betting against this team at the current prices. Everybody knows they're awful. Everybody knows they're the worst team in the league. And it's like the ignorance, the arrogance of people to think that like they could analyze the same stats that everybody else analyzes so much better, to think that, oh yeah, like even though the market has totally moved on this team and is totally like really inflating the opponent's prices on a game to game basis, I'm still going to find value betting against the Sharks. It's just so square. and so foolish. And it just takes a complete level of ignorance to want to do that at this point. I mean, like you're paying what minus 300, and if you think that that's not a good bet and you lay the puck line, well, it's the same thing, dummy. Sorry, but it is. So yeah, I don't know. Figure it out. Don't bet against the Sharks unless you got a really good reason. So that's it for Tuesday. I know we got a big slate. I'm going to stick with the three underdog plays. It's a half unit on the Flyers at plus 135, a 1 unit play on the Panthers. Not quite sure on the price. Actually, I can look that up really quickly now. Should have had that handy. Plus 138, 1 unit to win 1.38 units on the Florida Panthers, and a 1 unit play on the St. Louis Blues, fading the Wild and their new coach. 1 unit to win 1.35 units. Three plays for Tuesday. All underdogs. Let's hope that it works out for me on the puck portfolio on Tuesday. But yeah, let's move on to Wednesday. Light schedule on Wednesday, but of course we've got something big to talk about here right away with the news that broke on Tuesday morning. Patrick Kane, he's a member of the Detroit Red Wings, signing a 1 year contract. Now, there's a chance that Adam Fox will return to the Rangers lineup on Wednesday, but obviously the big question here is, will Patrick Kane be in the Red Wings lineup? So I don't quite know. I'm going to rule him out for now. Seems kind of like a quick turnaround. But what does the signing mean for the Red Wings in the long term? Well, I think according to the Canada sports betting projection model, you look at the Red Wings, they're in a decent position to make the playoffs. They currently sit third in the Atlantic Division, but Kane's signing alone isn't enough to get this team into the playoffs. I had to do some guesswork. Like I said, we don't know exactly when Kane is going to be on the roster, but with the signing, the Red Wings' playoff chances have improved from 38% to 48%. So why aren't they above 50%? Well, that's because the model still expects them to be a break even team that will win about 50% of their games going forward. And there are several teams in the Eastern Conference that it expects to perform better than the Red Wings down the stretch. So that's the big thing here. So yeah, if Kane is in the lineup, that would of course have an impact on the odds here for the Detroit Red Wings. They are currently available at as high as plus 166 right now. And if he was in the lineup, that would be a good bet. I think the Red Wings should be priced around plus 158 if Patrick Kane is in the lineup. Like I said, doing a bit of guesswork here. We don't know where he's going to slot in. And what does this do for Lucas Raymond, who was having a breakout season and really turning a lot of heads? How is this going to affect him? Because they're signing a 35-year-old to I guess take his spot, and we'll see what happens there. But as Kane said, he thinks he's got to earn his spot. But you wonder how the Red Wings are going to treat that, because I mean, there's definitely going to be a desire to get him into the best situations, and that might have a negative impact on Lucas Raymond. So something to watch there with the Red Wings and the Detroit and the New York Rangers uh, in the coming hours. We'll find out, I guess, if Kane is going to be in the lineup. But yeah, right now I'm projecting that Fox will be back in, and Kane will not be in the Red Wings lineup. So that's why the projection model has the Rangers as a minus 179 favorite. And the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're hosting the Montreal Canadiens. And NHL schedule makers have not been kind to the Blue Jackets. In fact, I think they've really screwed them in the month of November. They've made an already tough schedule even tougher by condensing it and having Columbus play on short rest very often. Here we are, the Canadians coming in on 3 days rest against the Blue Jackets, who are playing their fourth game in 6 nights. Not really a great spot for the Blue Jackets. Still the favorite though, because if you look at the Canadians, how they've played over the last a little bit, their rolling numbers just keep getting worse. And I don't know if you can speak to that, Jake. I know you were probably watching the Canadians on a nightly basis, but have you seen that? Have you noticed things kind of start to tail off for this team?
Yeah, it's a weird team. I mean, like the two wins they got in California, they maybe shouldn't got either of them, and then they were routed out of the building in LA. They were 1-3-1 to death. They couldn't get anything going on offense. So it's pretty hard to project them, but like you said, they've had 3 days rest. They've always been practicing. They're on the road. They're bonding. So as good as the Habs can be this year, I kind of expect to see that version of the team, tonight versus Columbus, who, like you said, is tired. So if there was a time to bet on the Habs, I certainly would go for it. But and according to your record, maybe the model underestimates the Habs a little bit. So
Maybe overestimates them. I believe I've been losing money betting on the Canadians. So, yeah, no, the fewest regulation wins in the NHL year to date. The Montreal Canadiens, they've got that title. So, I mean, you look at Columbus; they're coming off a couple of big wins, sandwiched between a big loss, but a couple of big wins there against the Devils, then against the Bruins, and they've started to pick it up in the last several games or so. You can see a trend in the right direction in terms of their rolling expected goal differential at evolvinghockey.com. So maybe a little bit flying. They're kind of flying under the radar right now, maybe, but obviously a big win over the Devils and a big win over the Bruins has people kind of looking at the Blue Jackets now as a potential underdog play. And finally, we've got the Washington Capitals in Los Angeles. The Capitals, they're coming off a 5-0 loss to the Oilers. They had a few days rest, and then they lose 2-1 to the San Jose Sharks. I don't expect they will win this game versus the Los Angeles Kings. The model thinks the Kings should be a minus 219 favorite. That's quite different from what the sportsbook is showing. Minus 208 at NorthStar Bets right now, but not actually enough value there to justify laying a price. So no bets for Wednesday. We'll be back on Wednesday with a big show previewing Thursday's NHL odds. Just the three bets for Tuesday. We've got the Philadelphia Flyers half unit play plus 135. We've got the Florida Panthers plus 138. That's long gone. That's a 1 unit play, 1.38 units looking to win there. I would not recommend betting the Panthers at this point. And finally, we've got the St. Louis Blues, who I would still recommend betting at plus 140, plus 135. So check that out. I'll see you on Wednesday with another big show. Thanks for joining me today. Good luck with your bets tonight.